Today's muscle car is a puzzler. Why does Lou put exhaust in the dash? Who is man enough to handle this? Or the shifter? Why is Lou, Lou?
Are you ready? Today is going to be a great day in the shop because all the parts for our Mustang Road Racer are finally here. We've still got a long way to go before we get this baby on the track, but if you've missed what we've already done, check this out. Our Outlaw Road Racer started life as a 289 fastback Stang. Once in the shop, we stripped it down and sent it off for media blasting, removing years of rust and body filler. Once we got it back, we cut out the floor, leaving nothing but the shell, primed it. Then we built a full tube frame, set the body on it, then we put in a Tiger quick change, built a roll cage, followed up by a 401 that Guys in Horsepower built, a G-Force 5-speed with a new set of wheels. We put her on the ground just to see how it was gonna look. We've got to put this thing completely together. The drivetrain, the electrical, the body panels have to fit. Everything has to be perfect just so we can blow it apart to paint. And it all starts right here with the fuel system. FuelSafe hooked us up with this tank. It's approved by most sanctioning bodies, and this foam will keep the gas from flying all over the place in case the cell is ruptured. It also comes with this rollover valve just in case the car turns up on its roof. But before I install it, I've got to make a frame to hold it. The measurements have to be exact, so it fits nice and tight around the tank. Some old steel was lying around the shop, a little media blasting, and the metal looks like new. A few welds, and we'll see how the tank fits. I'm gonna use the roll cage as the mounting point. It's the strongest part of the car. It'll keep the front of the tank secure, as well as making it easy to remove. These connectors will support the back of the tank, keeping it stable all the way around. 1/4-20 screws will connect the tank to the frame, making it a one-piece unit. Remove these 4 bolts, and the entire fuel cell comes right out. We're going to install this bar across the back to protect the fuel cell from any rear impacts. With the fuel cell back in place, I'll connect the lines to the tank, then plumb the whole system. I'm running this Dash 8 fuel line to this pump and filter supplied by Weldon. You always want to run your pump as close to the tank as possible and as low as possible because it's easier for the gas to be pushed rather than pulled. I want to be able to remove the pump and filter when needed. This plate will hold both of them, making it easy to take it on and off if I have to. You could wait till the frame and body are painted before doing the mounting points for the fuel and the brake lines, but this way you don't risk chipping the paint. I'm securing my brake lines and my battery cable with this plumb kit from Made For You. These T-clamps come in a variety of sizes from 3/16 to 5/8. That'll cover just about any application you may come across. With my hole already prepped, this 2-piece design is not only easy to install, but it's easy to remove. Everything I've installed so far was designed to be torn off fast. If something goes wrong at the track, I can access just about everything quickly. I'm gonna mock up my steering column so I can mount my pedals. The last thing you want to have happen is to not be able to mount your column because of a lack of space. This kit comes with everything you need. It's just gonna take some modifications. Competition Engineering designed this column so you can modify it to fit any car. A little fabrication is all that's needed. I'll temporarily tack it to the dash so I can set up the steering. I've got to cut apart the dash around the steering column to make the clutch and brake pedal setup work. I'm gonna need a little more room, so I'll cut the top of the dash off and weld it back in later. AFCO sent us this brake and clutch setup from Willwood and Tilton. This slave cylinder is for the clutch. The other 2 allow the brakes to work as a failsafe. If one goes out, you got a backup, making it a definite for our road racer. Being that we've got so much engine setback, we're gonna have to move the pedals back so everything fits. I'll still need to remove some more of the dash around the column for room. Since the pedals are reverse mount, I'll make my mounting bracket so I can connect them directly under the dash and then weld it to the roll cage. The pedals are right where we want them, but we've still got a lot of work to do, and it all starts with the steering, and you're gonna see that after the break. I've been steering this thing around the shop by its wheels now for a while, and it's no big deal, but I can't do that at the track. So this time, we're gonna mount the steering column for real. With the column where I want it to sit, I'll take a few measurements so I know where it's gonna connect. Cut some stock, tack it in from the frame rail to the column, then I can make another mount for under the dash, but this 3/8 nut will do the trick. We need a place where the rack can go, so this plate will make a great mounting point. Sweet Manufacturing sent us this close ratio rack. You'll find it on a lot of late model dirt and open wheel modified cars and trucks. We ordered their servo, which is 3 pounds lighter than the last. You can buy the rack with the servo mounted on it, if you've got the room, but since we don't, we're gonna run their remote servo. I needed a good midway point to attach to, that's between the column and the rack. So the engine mount is the perfect place to put it. Now I can connect the U-joints and the steering stock. Then we'll see how well my setup works. If I was running circle track, all I'd have to worry about is making lefts. But both ways is definitely better for a road course. Plus, it just makes good common sense. The dash can be tacked back in place for now. And hold that. Once all the modifications and instruments are in place, I can tweak all the unpleasantries later. The defrost and speaker holes have gotta go. This old calendar works well as a template. A few cuts, and the patch panel is done. Now our dash is aesthetically pleasing to the eye. The only music you're gonna hear coming from this car is from the engine, so we don't need a radio. What better place to mount our gauges than right here? Hot tub! Brent made this plate to work as a mount for the gauges. I've cut up the dash a lot, but I want to stay as close to the original shape as possible. Once it looks just right, bore out the hole. A lot of you guys mount the tack on the dash. I prefer using 4-inch exhaust to mount mine. I'll use this template to mark where it's gonna go and cut out what I don't need. The goal here is to make it look like it's part of the dash. With some minor trimming, I'll line it up, see what we've got. I'm gonna need an inner bracket to hold the tack in place. Most gauges come with them, but not for modified exhaust pipe. If you're gonna go this route, that was hot. Be prepared to be creative. Now this looks cool. Once I have it securely mounted, I can start mocking up the gauges. It's time to test fit our gauges. These are Autometers Pro Comp Ultralights, and their aluminum face makes it real easy to read, and they fit in most cars, but this is what they were made for. We needed an easily accessible place for the clutch and brake reservoirs, and the glove box has space available. So that's where they're going. Tommy from the POWERBLOCK crew happened to be hanging out, so I put him to work. I needed a cover plate that follows the contour of the dash, and he's pretty mean with the sheet metal. And I've got some more front end work to do. This bracket I made will be the reservoir mounting point. The whole unit needs to sit higher than the slave cylinders. This will prevent bleed back in the lines. Brent's been prepping our stock door hinges. With these in place, we can start hanging the doors. Kentucky Mustang sent us this OEM replacement for the driver's side. With a little finesse, it slides right in. The original passenger door was fine. A couple of adjustments, and it lined up perfect. This thing is finally starting to look like a Mustang again. Well, sorta. Later on in the show, we're gonna throw some fenders on this baby so we can build a radiator support. 1970 was the peak of the muscle car years. Just about everything screamed performance. You had mid-sized cars and pony cars, but Chrysler and Hearst got together and built the biggest muscle car ever, the 300H.
This week's MuscleCar Flashback, the 70 Chrysler 300H.
In 1955, Chrysler debuted a car that at the time would be considered the most powerful production car in the world. Retaining the Chrysler New Yorker body of the day, simple alterations were made, giving the Coupe 300 its own look. The rear quarters were off the Windsor, and the grille from the Imperial were added to give it a unique look. Under the hood, one fuel-hungry 331 firepower Hemi. The 300 was big and bad. So bad, stock car drivers like Lee Petty and Tim Flock were tearing up the track with them. In '57, Chrysler was stuffing the 300C engine compartment with a nasty 375-horse 392 Hemi, maintaining Chrysler's most powerful production car image. The 300 kept the performance options into the mid-'60s. Eventually, the 440 became the standard V8, and the 300 began to lean more towards style and luxury than a stealth stock car. 1970 was the year for an all-new 300, and Chrysler was looking for a way to reintroduce this well-known car to a new generation. The answer was simple. Team up with Hearst Performance to build a new 300 that came with some serious muscle under the hood. The 1970 Chrysler 300 Hearst. Battleship, land yacht, or ghetto sled may be some of the phrases that come to mind, but be careful what you think, because this ain't exactly your grandfather's town car. It's a barge on steroids. Like all the Hearst white and gold schemes, it was simple. Spinnaker white with satin tan accents, marked with Hearst badging, and even the wheels were pinstriped to match the body. For extra intimidation, it was outfitted with a fiberglass power bulge hood with functional air scoops and depressed rotary hood latches. The rear spoiler is also fiberglass, plus it helps this whale shed a few pounds. With a grille like the mouth of a shark and a taillight pattern that could double as runway lights, this beast definitely stands out. Exactly 1 inch longer than a Ford Excursion, it takes a lot of force to move this thing. 440 cubic inch TNT V8 under the hood makes it happen. 375 horse, 460 foot-pounds of torque passed through a torque flight transmission, and a posi rear end make this 4,100-pound monster run a surprising 0-60 time in 7.1 seconds. Taking a hard curve or coming to a quick stop, well, that's a whole nother issue. The interior was nothing short of luxury for the day. Saddle tan leather, power seats, power windows, power locks, automatic climate control, cruise control, and even a scan button for the radio that you can control with your foot. If you were looking for a muscle car back in 1970 but wanted luxury at the same time, then this was the car for you. The only problem, there were just a few of these ever built.
This is a 1970 Chrysler 300 Hearst 440, one of only 485 ever produced.
486 if you count this one. Chrysler and Hearst were out to win the hearts and minds with this 300. And who better than to do that than Miss Hearst Shifter herself, Linda Vaughn. This car is part of the Dudley collection, and Karen is one of the few drivers that's allowed to really open this thing up. Her drag and road course racing experience comes in pretty handy when making this aircraft carrier fly. If you see this thing coming, it may be a good idea to get out of the way. Not only is it fast, but it takes up the whole road. We'll be right back. All of our fiberglass parts came from Mustang Plus. Everything we need to take the unnecessary weight off of our front end. The fenders, the hood, the bumpers. Because for what we're building, we don't want to be on the heavy side. With the fenders back off, I can drill out the rest of the mounting holes, then rehang them and take measurements for the radiator support. In order to get the exact measurements for the core support, we'll bring in the hood so we can mock it up. And these spacers will help give us a good idea how it's all going to line up. I'll tack in the braces to hold them in place. Now we can install the front air dam. Since space is a concern, this gives me a really good idea of the area that I have to work with. We're going to fab up an entire radiator support because the factory one isn't going to work and there's no aftermarket one available. First, these mounting brackets will bolt to the fender. Then I'll cap off the front of the frame rails and use them as another mounting point. I'll need to cut some flat stock and some round stock. Then weld them together. This is what will connect our frame to the core support. With these in place, we can start on the main support structure. I'll need another measurement for the core support. Some 1/2" and 3/4 tubing will be used to make the other anchor points. Then we'll tack it in top and bottom and mount it to the fenders. These are braces for both sides of the fender. Their purpose is to give a little extra support between the front side impact bars and the middle upper fender. Okay, we've gone as far as we can go without our radiator. Now this support was designed with a couple of different things in mind. To hold the front of the fenders, the lower valance, and the grille. Now when we mount the radiator, we're going to put it in at about a 35-degree angle. That way you get more air over the front of the radiator, which means better cooling, which means a happier engine when you're whipping around the track. Our Mustang Road Racer has come a long way today. We put in our reservoirs so we can stop and shift. We cut the dash out and threw it back in. We mounted our gauges. We finished up our steering. We even gave this baby a nose job. And that all means one thing. We're one day closer to the track. Next week, more fab work. Until then, later.